Hello everyone, I'm Devyani Parmanand and I'm a chartered accountant by profession. And my today's topic for Talking Tuesdays is the real value of things. Recently, there was a news item about diamond planets, that is, planets made of diamonds. On Earth, diamonds are considered very precious because they are quite rare. Our planet's diamond content is about 0.001%. But on other planets in the universe, diamonds may be as common as, ordinary rocks. Imagine if we could access such a planet. Everybody would have enough diamonds everywhere. Would that make us all very happy? Maybe not. Diamonds would become very cheap and we would lose our interest in them. They would no longer excite us as they would be easily available and quite cheap too. Does that mean that we really hate cheap things? Not necessarily, but sometimes we do behave as if we do. If we look back in the human history, we find that a long cultural association has been formed between the rare, the expensive, and the good. Each has come to suggest the other. So anything that is rare and expensive is actually good. And naturally, the seemingly converse has also come true, that things which are widely available and inexpensive have come to be seen as unimpressive and unexciting. Let me tell you a story, that of the juicy, sweet fruit that is known as the pineapple. The pineapple is the native of South America, but it had already reached the Caribbean by the time Columbus reached there. The first meeting between Europeans and the pineapple took place in November 1493 in a Caribbean village on the island of Guadeloupe. Columbus was the first European who tasted the delightful and vibrant sweetness of the grand pineapple. The outside reminded him of a pine cone and the interior was like that of an apple. He wanted to immediately take it back to his homeland so that everybody could taste this delightful fruit. But there were some difficulties. The pineapple fruit was extremely difficult to transport and it was very, very costly to cultivate. So, for a long time, only royalty could actually afford to eat them. Russia's Catherine the Great was a huge fan of the pineapple, and so was Charles II of England. A single fruit in the 17th century sold for today's equivalent of 5,000 pounds, which is almost equivalent to 5,000 rupees. In fact, the pineapple became such a status symbol that if one could get hold of the fruit, the person would keep it on display until it fell apart. In the mid-18th century, the pineapple craze was at its height, and aristocratic evenings were structured around the ritual display of these fruits. Poems were written in its honor. Savoring even a tiny sliver could be the high point of a person for the whole year. The pineapple was so exciting and so loved by all that in 1761, the 4th Earl of Dunmore built a temple on his cottage estate in its honor. Christopher Wren also had no hesitation in designing the top of the South Tower of St. Paul's Cathedral on the lines of this fruit. Then at the very end of the 19th century, two things happened which changed the destiny of the pineapple. Large commercial plantations of pineapple were established in Hawaii, and there were huge advances in the steamship technology. So, as a result, production and transport costs came down and unwittingly changed and transformed the psychology of pineapple eating. Today you can buy a pineapple for as low as £1 or even less, which is equivalent to approximately 100 rupees. The pineapple is exactly the same, But now the pineapple has lost its glamour. It is not served in smart dinner parties and certainly would never be put as a design on the top of a major civic building. So, what has changed? The pineapple remains the same, but it is our attitude towards it that has changed. When we have to pay a lot for something nice, we appreciate it to the fullest. But the moment the price of an object falls in the market, our passion also fades away. Imagine tomorrow gold became available at a very cheap and affordable price. Would you still crave and value gold ornaments as you do now? No, I don't think so. In fact, we would try to find out some other, more expensive metal and start craving for that. Why do we associate cheap price with the lack of value? The answer lies in our pre-industrial past. For a long time of human history, there was a strong correlation between cost and value. The higher the price, the better the things were, because there was simply no way that both the prices to be low and for the quality to be high. And why was this so? Because most of the things were handmade. Trained artisans were rare, and the procurement of raw materials and the transport was really very difficult. Thus, a valuable item was almost always very expensive. This relationship of price and value changed at the end of the 18th century when the Industrial Revolution happened. Technology helped human beings to find out how to make high quality goods at cheap prices and also organize the labor force for maximum production. Actually, what should have happened is that the spread of industrialization should have not only resulted in a reduction of prices but also in the increase of widespread happiness, as high quality objects were now easily available to all. In effect, excellence was being democratized. But despite all these great efforts, industrialization actually produced a different result. It now has seemed to rob certain experiences of their loveliness, interest, and worth. It's not that we do not buy inexpensive things, it's just that we have stopped getting excited over these things. It's as if we have left far behind the little child within us. A small child, a toddler, would find nothing better in this whole world than to jump in the puddle in the middle of the road. The pleasure is incomparable. The ripples of the water created by the jump, the whirlpools, the minute waves created makes the child's experience so exciting. But why is it so with the children and not with us? It's because the children don't know what they are supposed to like and what to dislike. They don't understand money. So price is never a guide to value for them. They just rely on their own delight. Their own happiness or the lack of it depends on the intrinsic merit of the things that they are presented with. So they can spend an hour playing with a small button. Or we can buy them a costly toy made by some, Swedish artist with the hope that they would absolutely love it and learn a lot from it. And then what do we find? That they prefer the cardboard box that it came in. Children are still entranced by objects which we have long ceased to hold wonder for. If they are asked to put a price on things, they would answer with respect to the utility and charm of an object and not by its cost. But the sad thing is that we treat cost as a guide to what matters to us. We have been looking at prices the wrong way. We have allowed prices to set how much excitement is allowed to be had in given areas and how much joy is to be mined in a particular place. When a child is around 8 years old or around that age, something else happens. They start to learn the concepts of expensive and cheap. They begin to learn the view that more expensive a thing is, the better it may be. They are encouraged to save pocket money and somehow told to see that the bigger toy is also the better one than the cheaper one. We cannot go backwards and we can't forget what we know about prices. So, what can we do? What we can do is we can pay less attention to what things cost and more to our own responses. In fact, there are two ways to get richer. One is to make more money, and the second is to discover that more of the things we could love are already in our hands. That we are already a good deal richer than we are encouraged to think we are. Only then would we really understand the real value of things. I'm waiting for you the whole day today on Wisdom Curators Talking Tuesdays, waiting for your views, thoughts, posts, articles, comments on this subject. Do write to me and hope to see you there. Bye.